Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Legacy. I'm your host, Sam Abdallah. Our goal is to bring leaders, thought leaders, education to inspire, empower, and motivate you to expand your mindset, grow, and live your best possible life in the areas of health, wealth, financial freedom, and legacy. Welcome, Gary, to the show. Actually, a full-time real estate investor. He's a licensed real estate agent, achieving realtor awards and educator. In actually 2008, he purchased his first investment property. Through a lot of hard work and dedication, the regimen of the corporate world to become a full-time entrepreneur, which I'd love to dive into today. In 2014, Gary's helped hundreds of clients creating a wealth strategy plan and through public speaking, online webinars, as well as his own podcast, which is Real Talk with Gary. We'll have it linked today. Dedicated to inspire and educate anyone willing to change their mindset. He continues to play an active role in his community by attending corporate, private, school events, and educating adults and especially children. Gary's inspiration and hard work comes from his passion in helping others and wanting to make a difference in their lives. Being able to design a lifestyle of their choice is not easy. However, it's attainable as long as you have passion, you know what your why is. So Gary, welcome to the show.
Sam, thank you for that awesome introduction. And I'm excited to be here and I'm looking forward to doing this with you. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time. And so help us to understand how you got into the field of educating and coaching and consulting people on building wealth.
Good question. I guess the question is like, why did I get into the education piece of it, right? And wanted to help other people. I think it really stems from this one particular quote. I've said this many times, and since I've held on to this particular quote from Jim Rohn, it's really kind of stuck with me since. And it's help as many people get what they want, and you can have every and anything you want. And I was like, I wonder if that's true. I wonder if there's any real validity behind that. And you know what? It is. It's about helping other people. It's about showing them the way, but doing it sincerely. Actually having a path to show them, hey, look, this is what I've done. This is the road that I've taken. This is the path that I've gone down. Here's how I did it. Here's some of the mistakes that I made. Here are the partners and the contacts and the people that have helped me along the way. Use them as well too, because then what it does, it also creates this synergy from also seeing other people that you've helped and mentored sometimes do better than you or take it to the next level. And that's also inspiring as well too, because they may take that information that you may have provided them or showed them how to do, and then you can also then turn and learn from them as well too. And so, there's a saying, there is no rich hermit out there, so you can't do this on your own. So it's about, they say your net worth is your network, or your network is your net worth, however you want to say it.
That's incredible. So you definitely create a platform to help people, inspire them, and then you have the growth mindset to learn from them as well. And you're creating more leaders, aren't you? Especially with your brokerage, which you have in Toronto, just opened up. So I'd love to dive in a little bit about that synergy piece. Like, how has that shown up in your life as far as the people that you've helped mentor? How has that helped you grow as a person, as a leader, as well as in your own investments?
Because then I get to learn from them as well too. I then also get to bring them onto the podcast and see how they've taken what they've learned, whether it be from me or whether it be from other people. And what it is that, the more that you learn, the more you realize how little you do know. And so then, what you're doing, and you're going to find out, I think, in the next, if you stick with this and do it for another year, you'll realize that you're going to learn so much more from your guest than you actually sometimes teach your audience. And that's the incredible thing of sitting down and learning from other people, because their path and what they've done throughout their lives has been so different from what you've had. And then now you kind of come together and learn from each other. So that's really what I've enjoyed along this journey of real estate investing. And that's essentially why I got into it. Was I was looking for financial stability at first, then financial freedom, and then that moved me into time freedom, and now we're working on geographical freedom. And it's just been because of just simple conversations. I'm not better than anybody else. I've just done some things different once I started going on the path and wanted to leave that 9-to-5 job. And I know I say that from time to time. I'm not knocking anybody that's in that corporate world. It's just, for me, it was energy draining. I was like, I can't do this anymore. There was a time when I loved it, but then there was also a time where I'm like, I feel like there's something else out there that I can be doing with my time and my energy. And I never want to look back and say, man, I wish I did this, or I wish I tried that. I want to try and do this with no regrets at the end.
That's incredible. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper on your story about how you were in the 9 to 5 and in the corporate world, what you realized didn't quite work, and what was that light bulb that went off that made you realize that there must be something else out there and I need to create a better life for me and my family.
Yeah, here's what it was. It was this. There was more month than money. That was the first part of it. The second part was when I almost lost my job. It was around 2008. This is like when the US had their financial crisis, and it didn't happen up here in Canada. It was more of a sideways movement in the real estate market. But a lot of well, at least at TD Bank when I was working, they started to cut back. And when that was happening, I remember walking in and seeing one of my coworkers get called into the office and seeing him come back out and being completely petrified because he had just lost his job. And all day long, they just started calling people into that office and letting them go. That was a huge eye opener for me, because I then realized that it felt like I had this secure job to, no, this is not security. And there's this false sense of security, I think, sometimes when you're in this 9 to 5. And I remember when that day ended and driving home, I was like, never again do I want to feel like that. Because it was a moment in time where I kind of froze and just realized, like, wow, I don't actually have control of this. Somebody has control of me, and I never wanted that ever again. And that was when I really started down the path of trying to figure this out. How do I take control of my time, my finances, my money, to be able to stand up on my own 2 feet and to be creative? That was the start of it all. And ever since then, it's just been a path of trying to learn, whether it be the mindset, whether it be the technical skills of real estate investing, whatever it was. I was like, I need to now stop watching television and movies and really start to educate myself. That was really where it all stemmed from.
Ready to break out of the rat race and start building wealth? The Wealth Builder Club is a reliable partner for real estate investing. Our experts have a proven track record of finding profitable properties, delivering exceptional results. Partner with us for access to resources and network, and to build wealth faster with our innovative approach. Contact us today to achieve more of your financial goals through real estate investing. Visit us at affluenceregroup.com to learn more. That's incredible. So you definitely started implementing a new mindset around that. You also mentioned that you went from financial stability to financial freedom. I know Tony Robbins has that spreadsheet about the different levels and what you need as far as passive income.
Yeah.
Walk me through a little bit about how you developed that vision to create that to go through that path. What helped you, and how do you do that for some people that you work with as well?
It starts off with having a simple goal. That's where it starts. It all starts from a goal. It all starts from, listen, you sit down and you think of all the different things that run through your mind on a day-to-day basis. There's thousands upon thousands. And the only way to get clarity is by writing down what it is that you want in your life. And that was one of the first things that I learned when I started going down, was like, hey, what is it that I want? So I started writing down everything. And I was like, I don't know if this is really going to work, but it seems like all the mentors and the whether it be podcasts, wasn't really big podcasts back then, but the CDs and the tape cassettes that I was listening to was all talking about goal setting and dreaming big and writing it down and the power of putting pen to paper. And that's where I started. And then focusing on the things that I could accomplish in that 1 year. That was the main thing, was just focusing on things, whether it be starting a new business or writing a book or whatever it was. What are the things that I can accomplish in 1 year, as opposed to what can I accomplish in 5 years? Because 5 years is very long, and it's daunting to now have this thing on your whiteboard of saying, this is what I'm going to accomplish in 5 years. I'm not saying don't write it down, but file it away, and you can revisit that on a year-to-year basis. And then when you focus on the things that are on your 1 year, then here's what you can do is that now you can then start to break down those 1 year goals into monthly goals, into weekly goals, into daily goals. And then before you know it, you're on your way to achieving each one of those things that you've written down your board, because it can be as small as buying a pair of shoes to as large as buying your first investment property. And I remember when I wrote down that I wanted 4 investment properties 1 year, and at the end of the year, I achieved got 4 investment properties. Like, oh, I get it. All it is about just realizing what it is that you want and putting the energy and the focus on it. Because when things start to happen, you start going to these networking events, you start calling people, you start talking, and those are all those little small steps. Like if you take a look at anything you do in life, everything is doable, but it all starts with a small step. Whether it be, hey, I want to buy a property in Mexico. Okay, cool. Well, what's the very first step that you've got to take to do that? Well, maybe how about calling an airline and booking my ticket to go to Mexico? That's where, and it starts from that. Then finding a realtor that can show me around down in Mexico and why Mexico is a good place. Okay, what about a lawyer? So you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just those small steps, and then before you know it, all of a sudden, you have a property, or you have whatever goal is that you said that you're going to achieve. But it all starts with those small micro steps. I'll add one more thing to that. I think this is important as well too, because I'm big on the wealth and also your body, because it's also about health as well too. And I remember listening to this one podcast, and this guy was asking him a question about, how do you get into that mindset of wanting to work out, or at least just starting it? And he goes, oh, very simple. He goes, you do micro workouts. And he goes, okay, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, well, just say, hey, I'm gonna go down on the ground and I'm gonna do 1 push-up. Okay, anybody can do 1 push-up. But now that you've got down there, you've done 1 push-up, what are you probably gonna do? You know what? Well, I'm down here anyways. Why don't I just do 10? And so it all starts with those simple steps. And I don't know if I answered the question.
I love that. Yeah, it seems like you're creating inertia you're creating that mindset and that muscle, like literally be able to do that small action and iterate over time. So you created a goal, you got clarity, you created a vision, and you broke those goals down. We kind of talk about that 411 where you're breaking them down to monthly and yearly. Do you believe in that 12-week year where you kind of break it down into different segments of the year? And what do you do as well as far as that goal? If you ever had a time where that goal seemed like consciously it wasn't in reach, but subconsciously like it seemed bigger? What do you do? I know you do SMART goals. So can you explain to me a little bit how the methodology behind the goal that you set and setting that goal, as far as, if that makes sense?
Yeah, like what? Like breaking it down to like, how do I actually get to it?
Yeah, let's say that goal for that year is
10
investment properties, and you think, you know what, I'm not sure right now how I'm going to be able to accomplish that. I know the who, not how, but what do you do in that case? Do you set a SMART goal? You're like, okay, I'm going to start here, or do you set a stretch goal and then allow you to push yourself through it? Because I know there's a lot of ideologies around that. So just wanted to see what.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ideologies around it. There's the one that I use is very simple, because there's always like all these different 4 quadrant ones, right? Like important, not important, urgent, not urgent, and all that, right? So those ones are good. I like it, but what I found was very simple. What worked for me is, you can see my whiteboard in the back, but then I also have an agenda, and I work in my agenda. This is my Bible. And here's what you do. There's only 4 things you can ever do with anything that you do or write down, or that you're willing to achieve in a week. So now I plan everything in this week. Okay. So for the most part, I usually know what my week is going to look like. And so at the end of the week, I take a look at everything I've written down, because I dump everything in here, whether it's things that I need to do, personal things, important things with my team, with my social media manager, whatever it may be, and everything gets dumped in there. And then as they get completed, I highlight them, because then now I also have a journal of everything that's happened for the whole year, of what I'm doing, what I'm achieving. At the end of the week, When I flip it over to the next week, here's what I do. I see either I do it, which means it got highlighted. I defer it, meaning that now let me bring it into the next week because it's still important to do. I delegate it, meaning that it's important, but I've now realized I don't have the time to do this, or I delete it, meaning that this is not important. So those are the four things you can ever do with any task, any goal that you're trying to achieve. And by doing those, again, breaking it back down to the small steps, those are what gets me closer to each of those goals on my whiteboard and the things that I said that I'm going to do. Because here's another thing that's really important. Why it's so important to write these things down is that it's more important to say no to things than it is to yes. Because you're going to find that as you continue to grow, there's going to be a lot of different opportunities that will come your way. And then you're always trying to figure out, well, should I do this or should I do that? Yeah, you know what? Let me try this. And then all of a sudden now you've got all these different things that you're working on that you kind of just you're flowing down the river of life as opposed to actually having clearly defined goals. Because I say no to more things because I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to achieve this year. And maybe I come across something like, yeah, you know what, that is important. But then now you can also do mid-course corrections. But I only like to do those once a year. But for the most part, at the beginning of the year, I know I like to plan out my whole entire year.
Our wealth creation partner, 33/7. 33/7 creates wealth for entrepreneurs. They've used financial structuring to 10x families' net worth. Now we show others how to do it. They make rich entrepreneurial families richer. For more information, visit 337.com to learn more. Absolutely love that. I think it's definitely great that you have a way of delegating, deferring, figuring out what's important. I think leaders work with a sense of priority. So I think it definitely shows that you're leading others and you're showing them how to prioritize as well. When it comes to your values, do you believe that your core values determine that filter on what you work on next, what advice you take, what direction you go in? How do your values show up? What are your core values and how do they show up in your everyday, goal setting and your journey, as well as deciding whether to say no or yes to something?
Yeah, that's a good point. Core values are really important because what that does is it helps you define what's important in life, because sometimes you get so caught up on trying to achieve the next goal that you forget why you were doing what you were doing in the first place. And a lot of times it's usually friends and family. It's time. Essentially what you're doing, a lot of this is to get time back, right? And a lot of times, when I've done some of these podcasts and talked to people who are incredibly successful, a lot of times they talk about, I wasn't clear on what it was and why I was doing what I was doing. And then all of a sudden my kids were gone, like they've moved out, or I was looking for this next property, this next accolade. And I look back and I'm like, that's not why I was doing it. I've said this many times on my podcasts, I don't love real estate investing. I think people think that I do. I love what it does for me, but I don't love it. Like I don't wake up, I'm like, oh man, I want to go look at some more bricks and mortar and 2x4s and shingles. No. I don't like that part of it. But what it does for me, because what I'm doing is, it's where do I put my hard-earned money? And the best place that I've seen it over time is in real estate. And it's really more the land, which is an incredible store of value. Because if you take a look at money or the currency, whatever you want to call it, it's depreciating because of the way that they're printing. Take a look at where, you look at homes that were built, 90 years ago in the 1930s or 40, and what they cost then and what they cost now. It's lost like the dollar has lost 90% of its purchasing power. Right. So you look at a home that's maybe like 100,000. Listen to this on a podcast earlier today where he was talking about this home that was in the 30s, was 100,000. And now that same home is worth $40 million. So that goes to show you the devaluing of the dollar. And so how do you store and preserve your hard-earned money? It's in hard assets in land. Now there's obviously other places, but this is what I decided to kind of focus more on, which I think to me makes the most sense.
Yeah, it's a great because you actually brought up that book and I started reading that, the Jekyll Island, I believe the US Federal Reserve
Yeah.
was
The creature from
huge.
Jekyll Island. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about the Federal Reserve and how it all works. And it makes a lot of sense with big banks and, governments, et cetera. Not to get too political, but I think that that's a very important book to understand, as along with fake too, how they're printing more money and it's worth less. So when you talk about when you're helping people invest and move through that journey of financial stability, what do they do to overcome the mindset to move through that? Because I think there's a bit of scarcity that could be there that they have to overcome to get through that. How did you get through that? And what do you do to help people guide them through to financial freedom and help them with that vision?
Yeah, I missed the first part of that. How do I get them through what, like being able to purchase their first investment property?
Yeah, perhaps empower them to get the mindset to move through creating financial stability, then financial freedom, then time freedom. Because I think that
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, right? I think one of them, which is I think is important, is like but what about the headaches and the problems and the tenants and the repairs and the maintenance, and yeah, these are all problems for sure. When you go to work, are there no problems at work? Of course, there's problems at work.
yeah.
Okay, so they're just problems, and all you got to do then is get better at solving those problems. So when you're at work and you start a new job, those problems are new to you, and you don't know how to solve them in the beginning. And so you learn. Maybe you went to school and you have some education, so you have an idea. But every business is different. And once you get in there, you're like, oh wow, okay, this is real hands-on stuff. Okay, now I got to go through it, and it takes you like 6 months, takes you a year to really kind of figure it out and get your groove. Same with real estate. Same thing. Same with anything in the stock market. First time you're going to probably lose some money, and you start to understand it, start reading the reports and understanding the validity. I keep saying validity, but anyways, of the company.
Yeah, I know.
I think I'm trying to challenge myself. But anyways, it's no different than anything else. You're not going to start off by knowing it all. But what you do is you learn, and then you surround yourself with the right people to help guide you through that path. That's it, right? So problems are everywhere.
Yeah, it's like that problems or profits, right? Or pick your, things to work on. Like you said, getting better at creating a solution.
Yeah. And listen, and the bigger the problem, like here's what it does as well, too, is that when you solve that problem, it gives you more skills, and then allows you to tackle the next problem that will be bigger. Like when I look at the problems that I solve now compared to the problems that I was solving like 10 years ago, they're astronomically larger now, because I'm not as fearful, because I've gone through the mistakes and the challenges and the issues because of the experience that I've had. But it also then allows me to continue to keep moving forward, and not being as scared to make even more mistakes, because I'm going to continue to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I probably make more mistakes. Listen, the more mistakes I've made over the years by doing what I've been doing over the last 12 years, I've become more successful by making more mistakes. Yet they teach you in school, don't make mistakes. So
Yeah.
I've done the complete opposite. And the more mistakes I've made, the more successful I've become.
That's incredible. So when you talk to a new student or you're helping someone set their goal, and we'll link to your coaching program as well, when you're mentoring them, do you have a threshold of what mistakes they can actually make, what their risk tolerance is to be able to stay in the game, so then they can create that portfolio? Like, I guess there is sort of a balance of what they can, of course, mistakes are welcome, but yet what mistakes can they tolerate so they can take it to the next level? And then also, how do you help them create that vision of financial freedom and map out what that looks like for their portfolio, or just in general, to help them get through that stability?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk specifically, I think about, say, real estate investing. I think the thing that I tell anybody to do in the beginning is try and choose one strategy, because there's multiple strategies out there, from wholesaling to single family to 2-unit to the BRRRRs to multifamily to rent to own to arbitrage to Airbnb to midterm. There's so many out there. So just go through them, go to these events, listen to podcasts. And when you find one that resonates with you, then forget about the rest, and then select that one and then master it. And then by doing that, that will help with the fear that you'll build a larger tolerance because you're not focusing on anything else except that. When I first started, what I did was, which I didn't know what it was called back then, the burst strategy, but I did 2 units. And I failed miserably at it. I was horrible. I almost stopped investing in real estate. And then 2009, I got introduced to rent to own. And then I stuck with that until 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. I continued to keep doing it for a couple more years, but I didn't do anything else until I think it was 2015. And then I went back to the 2-unit burst strategy. And that was it. And then when I did that, then I just studied it. I mastered it. I went to the city. I understood the how wide the driveway's got to be and the height in the basement and all of that, and just got really good at that as well too. Before then, I moved on to another strategy, which was then private lending, and now we focused kind of primarily on private lending for a few years. And then I went into partnering up with some great partners to be a co-owner of a brokerage. And so now I'm understanding and learning that, right? And so I think you've always got to try to reinvent yourself every Warren Buffett says reinvent yourself every 5 years, I think is what he says. And so then, you know what? He's done it like 12 or 13 times. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on myself as well too. So I think that's the best way to do it, is just find something and then master it for 4 or 5 years.
So getting into mastery, like you said, being around the right people, picking one strategy, because you're right, there are so many different strategies. Even rent to own, like I was speaking with someone the other day and they said, you're not sure if the strategy that would work. It seems very attractive. Do you talk to your students based on what their ability is, what their financial ability is, what resonates with them, and picking a strategy? For example, rent to own, is it something that still works right today? If they don't qualify right now, can they qualify in 3 years?
Yeah, rent to own still works. Is it maybe a little bit harder? Possibly, yes. But it still works. All these strategies still work. It just, where do you do it? Maybe it's not going to work in Toronto, but maybe it might work out in Belleville, or maybe it might work out into the Kawarthas. So they still work. It just depends on where you're deploying that particular strategy. It's not even to say that it can't work in Toronto. I'm sure it probably can, but I'm not in it as much, so I don't know. What I do for any student in the beginning is we kind of go through all the different strategies, and I'll give them a homework, and I'll say, write the pros and the cons of each of these strategies, meaning go and do your homework, go and figure them out, do your research, and then they'll come back and we'll go through each of them together. And then last, what I do also too is that I have them rank them from 1 to 10. And then once it's starting to rank, sometimes it might change as we go through it together. Now we have the top 3. The top 3 is really what I'm more interested in. Okay, out of the top 3, what are your top 2? Okay, out of your top 2, what's the number 1 now strategy that you like the best? Boom, there you go. Now master that. Focus on that. Don't focus on anything else.
Attention corporate workers and young families, are you thinking about building wealth in real estate investing and don't know where to start? Build My Legacy Now can help you purchase your first investment property with confidence. Our guidance will set you on the path to financial freedom and secure your financial future. Don't wait. Visit buildmylegacynow.ca to learn more about getting started in real estate investing today. That's great. And I know you also do a series on redlining properties. What's your methodology, your thought process around, I know real estate's a great investment. It's a great place for capital preservation. And yet, what do you do to determine if it's going to make sense for someone to sell a particular property? Selling, like you said, is not losing. You sold one recently. Can you share with me a little bit more about that thought process?
Yeah, it's going to be different for everybody, right? You have to determine what is it that you're trying to achieve. Is it cash flow? Is it wealth building? And that might change as the years go on, as you continue to invest in real estate. And so I guess I'll give a personal example. We recently sold one of our investment property. It was a single family home. It was one that we purchased early on in our investing career. At the time, the numbers made sense. We could find a tenant. It cash flowed. We refinanced it, pulled some money out, purchased more additional properties. I think we might have refinanced twice on it. and then got caught. We got caught last year with the interest rate rise.
Right.
And with that particular property and where the rates were and the carrying costs, we knew that we weren't going to get any additional cash flow from it. Number one. Number two, there was no additional higher and best use. We could have maybe switched over to midterm. We did consider it, but we said, you know what, it's had a good run. Let's get rid of it. And then we'll redeploy our funds now into something better based on the skill sets and the knowledge that we have today. And so we did that. Now, we have some properties today that are neutral, and then we have multiple properties that are still cash flowing. But I think pivoting is not a bad thing. I think people think that selling is failing, and that's not true. But it just depends on your goals. Now, could we have kept it? Yeah, we could have, but I know that we could deploy that and do something way better with it now with what we know. And so that's what it comes down to, right? Is understanding your strategy, understanding what your strengths are, and then making that decision on what's the best decision for you and your family. Because look, at the end of the day, here's really what it comes down to. Where is real estate going to be 10 years from now? That's always a question you should ask yourself, right? And then after that, can you sustain that property for the next 10 years? I think people got so caught up with the last 2 to 3 years, especially with COVID and being at home and becoming real estate investors and gurus, that they thought that you could do perfect burrs every year. And that's not true, man. That was, we were in a little bit of a fantasy world there for a little while. And unfortunately, some people got caught. I got caught. Great learning lesson. I can tell you that for sure. Last year was an incredible learning lesson for me, not only just for real estate, but also for my businesses. And I've had to pivot and adapt. And I loved it because I thought I had built a recession-proof business. Wrong. And so then I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to sit down with my coach, and we went to events, and we've pivoted, and we've had to, it was good because our business slowed down, which allowed us to reinvent ourselves. And we're still in the middle of the process of doing that, but a great learning lesson.
What are some strategies working today? And the other thing is, what are some learning lessons, 1 or 2 learning lessons that you did to pivot? How did you use that information? And what do you think is more effective in today's economy and today's market?
Okay, so 2 questions there. So what did I learn, and what are some strategies? So strategies I think that work today: creating multiple units in a single family dwelling. That's a great strategy. Recently, Toronto has amended some of their bylaws to allow that. I think 3-4 units now, which is great. What else is a good strategy? I think rent to own is a strategy that can work, I think, in the right market. Flips you got to be careful of. Flips you always have to be careful of, because you're always trying to time and make sure that you're being able to offload a great property that you picked up as a good deal and being able to offload it at a future date. And then the big learning lessons for me last year was, I thought working with real estate investors was recession proof. I always thought that they'll buy in an up when the market's going up, they'll buy when the market's going down, or they'll buy when the market's going sideways. What I didn't put into the factor or into my understanding of it was that they don't buy as quickly when interest rates raise as quickly as they did last year.
Right.
So then we realized, okay, let's not only focus on just real estate investors. I would say probably like 80 to 90% of our business was that. And now we've pivoted into helping families also buy their dream homes and sell their home to, whether it be move up or downsize. And so we've now brought on a new inside sales agent, somebody to manage our database. We have a coach now that we meet with on a weekly basis, and looking to bring on other realtors onto our team, but not just investor focused. And so we've shifted, and there's a few other things as well too, but that's really the big one. Is how do I manage fluctuating markets so that I got a sturdy ground?
Yeah, I love that example, because I think, and we're in a similar business with real estate as well. And like, you have people that still need to solve a problem for, right? And I think that's what sales is. You're solving a problem. Maybe you're helping them sell to move to a different home. Maybe it's going to allow them to free up some ability to travel or buy an investment property down the line, rather than just focusing on one type of investor. So I think that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
you also do private lending, Deeper Pockets, I believe that's the company, right?
Yeah. At Deep Pockets.
Deep Pockets.
Yeah.
So someone comes to you and they said, I really would like to replace my active income or financial stability, maybe housing and food costs or whatever, and I'd like to start getting into lending. What should they know about what kind of equity they need to get started? I think I remember reading or hearing from it's like 1%. So if you had $1 million out, lend it all time, is it 1% back that you're getting? Can you share with me a little bit about your experience? Because you're obviously an expert in the private lending space, and what someone needs to do to get started and to help them,
Yeah. Let you in on a secret. I am not an expert in the private lending space. My knowledge is very limited, and so I kind of work this more like in my genius. What I'm good at is finding people and building businesses with them. That is kind of what I enjoy doing. So on the private lending space with our company Deep Pockets, it's my wife and Darlene Hibbert and Neil D'Souza. They're the brains behind that business because Neil's a mortgage agent. My wife used to be a mortgage agent, and they are incredibly good at underwriting, analyzing the risks involved in each of these deals. Because not all of them, they don't do every single one. So they're really more the experts behind it. Now, in regards to how much should you invest, or should you even invest in private lending? Here's what I think it comes down to. I always like kind of just share my story or my journey.
Please, yeah, I would love that.
I think that makes the most sense. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd known about private lending for many years. I remember when I was working at TD, there was a good friend of mine that did it, but I didn't know much about it. And then when we were scaling and I looked at my portfolio and I was like, okay, how many more doors do I need to get the cash flow that I'm looking for on a monthly basis? And when I took a look at it, I was like, okay, I need X amount of more doors. I'm like, okay, I gotta start scaling. And so how do you scale? Multifamily. So then we started taking a look at multifamily, took courses on it. Both me and my wife, we took I think it was like a 3 months course. Then we went out and started looking at these multifamily spaces. And I wasn't completely sold on it, but I reached out to a good friend. He showed me his portfolio. And then here's what happened. I had a great conversation with my mentors. And he's like, yeah, that's one way of doing it.
Love this
And I was
story.
like, interesting. And I said, well, what do you suggest? And he goes, well, how many more doors do you need? How many more properties do you need to own? What is the pinnacle of most societies? And it was the bank. And he says, well, why don't you just become the bank and just lend your money out? Yes, you're not going to build the wealth part of it, but it'll allow you to create the cash flow that you're looking for. Then when you create the cash flow that you're looking for, well, then now you can take a step back and really say, hey, what do I want to do with my life? What is it that I really enjoy doing? As opposed to, like I said earlier, chasing the next deal, chasing the next investment property, chasing where do I put my money next. And by doing that, it's allowed me and freed up some time for me to help build a brokerage and do the podcast, which I enjoy doing, and continuing to educate and teach people and bring experts out to share their story and their journey. Right.
Yeah, I love that story because it's definitely great to show people that they don't have to be caught up in how many doors that they have. It's what's another way, another strategy that they can create cash flow to create some freedom to look back and what they really would like to do. I know you do mini vacations or mini retirements, which I
Yep.
think is really awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I think that kind of ties into time freedom as well as designing your life the way you intend it.
Yeah, mini retirements is really important to me. We started off back in 2010 when we sat down and decided that we wanted to start our company, Smart Home Choice. We said, what is it that we're looking to achieve from what we're trying to build? And it was to be able to enjoy life. And I think that's really more of a period, to be able to enjoy life, obviously with financial freedom as well too. And we sat down with the kids. I remember coming home and we had a big Bristol board. I still got it somewhere here. and we wrote Smart Home Choice in the middle, and we had the kids dream with us.
I love that.
And said, what do you want from Smart Home Choice? I'm like, well, we want like a mascot. I'm like, awesome, let's do a mascot. Like, okay, we want like $1 million a year every year. I'm like, awesome, let's do that. What else? We want like an education company. Cool. And, I was giving them ideas, and they were throwing ideas out at me. And I said, what about vacation? I'm like, we want 2 months vacation. I'm like, how about 4 months vacation? And we're like, yeah, let's do it. 4 months vacation. And I was like, I kind of took a look at it, and I'm like, I wonder if we can do this 4 month vacation thing. And so we decided that when we started Smart Home Choice, that we were going to do no events in July and August, and no events in December and January. And to this day, we don't do them. And I think one of the reasons why we decided to do that, and why it was so important to us, is that at our early age, in our early 30s, I lost my mom, and then my wife also lost her mother within a span of like 3 months. And then we realized that, this is not forever. This journey is not forever. And so let's enjoy it while we're still young, and let's not worry about retirement. And I'll add to this as well too, which I think is important.
I'd love for you to add, please.
Sorry?
I'd love for you to add, because I think this is a very important point.
Yeah, is that I remember when I was at my corporate job, and I remember trying to figure out, how am I going to get out of here? And I remember saying, man, I can't wait until I retire. And I'm like, man, is that true? Like, I can't wait until I'm 65 years old. So I'm just going to wish away 30 plus years of my life. And I think that's really where the mini retirement stemmed from, was that let's not worry about when I retire. Why don't we just retire every year and enjoy life, each stage, each year of our lives? And that's what we did. That's what we've built.
I think that's a great way to look at it, especially that I find with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in real estate, you sort of have this guilt. It's like a hustle culture. Like, you take time off and you feel like you have to be working. So you're always thinking about the opposite thing. You're at home thinking about work. You're at work thinking about home. So has that allowed you to be a little bit more present with your family, and allowed you to just really get the most out of life? Because you said it's a short journey, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. So now we're getting ready. We're going up to the cottage. You're going to open it up, and that's kind of like our getaway up there. And we will invite friends and family throughout the whole entire. Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome to swing by. 100%. You're in the area.
Accountable. It's on the podcast.
Call me. It's on the podcast. It's on the podcast.
Awesome.
But and it's to spend time. Listen, when we're up there and you're sitting around the campfire, and I try my best to put my phone inside, because we're usually outdoors, you really get to bond with somebody over a drink, by the fire, sitting down, going for a boat ride, whatever it is. There's a bond that happens when you're no longer looking at your phone, where you're just talking about life or about the song that's currently playing, nothing about work. And that, to me, is the most incredible part, I think, of what we've tried to build. But I will say this: by the end of August, I can't drink anymore. I can't party anymore. I can't entertain anymore. And now I need to go back to my purpose. So I still think, I know you need purpose in life. And I say this to anybody, like, go lay on a beach for a year, see if you can do it.
I remember Alfonso's story. He said he was like, financially free. He's like 31 at his conference, and he's like kicking the sand. He's like, this week looks like last week, and then the week before. And it's like, we go to a resort, it drives you absolutely bananas. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, but then if they do the same thing, your life's on repeat. So
right. You need purpose. You need something to do, to build, to achieve, to attain. You need to do that. But then you also need that time to reflect. And that's my time to reflect. Listen, let me make sure I'm very clear here too, that yes, okay, I take the time off. I still work maybe 4 hours a week. Like, I'm still checking my emails. I'm not completely gone, but I do have a team that helps me. I still have systems and processes in place. So things are still being done. I've just pulled myself out 90% out of my business, right? Because to me, I need that time. I need that reflection. am I on the right path? I think that's important as well too. Am I doing what I want to do? And that's what you need during those downtimes, is saying, yes, I'm on the right path, or no, I don't like this direction anymore. I think I need something else. Because I can tell you this, we are what now? We're in May. I'm getting close to burnout because I put a lot of energy into what I do. It's a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And by the end of June, we have like this big party on a patio with our members, with investors. You're more than welcome to come.
I'd love it.
And I'm like, it's a celebration to see you later. And I tell everybody on social media, I tell everybody on my newsletters, I'm out, and I'm very open with that, right? And because I want, if anybody else is listening, I'd love for them to experience the same thing as well too.
Yeah, that it's like giving yourself permission, right? Because I think like so often growing up, we're looking at other people, other authorities for permission, and we have to give ourselves permission. And I think it's powerful to do that because it's easier said than done. I find myself sometimes you have this nagging, I should be growing somehow, but sometimes that stillness is growing. Sometimes it's spending time with someone is growing. So I think that giving yourself permission is huge. So what is your purpose?
Sure.
What is your why and your path right now? And we'll close things out.
My why.
Your path. What's your purpose? Yeah.
It's the simple things. You know what I really enjoy? I'll tell you what I enjoy. When I break it, when I kind of shed it all away, you know what I really enjoy? Is sitting down almost every night and having dinner with my wife and my kids. It's as simple as that. It's such a simple.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But I enjoy that. And when we do it, even if we're not happy with each other, we're mad or we're fighting, we still sit down. And if my daughter gets up because she wants to go downstairs because she's mad or whatever, sit down. And we just kind of talk and we just figure it out, or we don't say nothing to each other, but that creates that bond of family, and it's not easy, but that's what we do between 6 and 7. That's kind of family time. Turn my phone over, don't talk to anybody. I don't do any Zoom calls during that time, because to me that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's one of my whys. And I think the one that we're working on right now, the second one for me and my wife is a geographical freedom, which is why we bought that property down in Mexico, because we do want to start spending more time seeing other places of the world, because it's such a huge world. And why not be able to see if we can figure out how to work outside of Canada and continue to run our business if we decide to.
Yeah, you had mentioned geographical freedom a few times. I think that's definitely important and where things are going. Why is that important to you? And what are you working on right now? What are some things you talked about? Mexico development going on, or land assembly, I believe, or purchase a property down there, a condo, correct?
Yeah, we purchased a condo down there. So it was actually kind of an interesting thing. So we went down there, we saw a condo that we liked. It was a 3-bedroom. We came back, we tried to figure out how can we purchase this condo, because we had a lot of our money tied up. Sat down with our accountant. He said, leave it with me. He came back a few days later. He was okay, I figured it out. And so we created what's called infinite banking. You hear a lot of people talking about it now. And so we were able to purchase it. But what we did, it took a couple months, because in that building, this hadn't been done before, but we decided to convert it into a 2-unit. And so we did that. So now there's actually 2 units for that building. You can use it as a 3-bedroom, or you can use it as 1 bedroom with a full kitchen, or 1 bedroom like as a hotel style with a door in between. And so we took our knowledge here and did it down there. And so now they're actually building another condo right beside us now. They're doing the exact same thing in a couple of those units, right? Which is kind of cool. And so we did that because, to me, freedom is important. And I don't know what your political views are, anybody who's listening, but to me, I believe in freedom of choice, freedom of travel, freedom to do what is, as long as you're obviously not injuring or hurting anybody, but freedom to do what you want to do with your life.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Well, Gary, it's been an incredible pleasure. There's lots of stuff, could go deep on so many more things. Where can people find you, and how are you helping and serving the community, and where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks. So they can find me at garyhibbert.ca if they're looking to maybe get some coaching or mentorship. If you want to learn more about our education company, you can go to smarthomechoice.ca, or you can just Google my name, Gary Hibbert, and you'll find me on multiple social channels.
We'll make sure we link your podcast in here. Gary, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Sam. I appreciate it. It was a great podcast, and you're a great host.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Gary. You have a great day.
You too. Take care.
You too.